All right, this video is about pin vices and scribes. Now, the first pin vise I ever saw in my life, other than an X-Acto blade holder, my dad had an X-Acto blade holder with one blade. That's all he ever had was the same. We didn't have the set. We just had one X-Acto blade holder. It wasn't a pin vise. Uh, the pin vise I'm going to show you will hold blades, and it'll also hold drill bits. Here it is here. Now, this was used in a company across the street from my house, and they would put surgical blades in there, and it's slotted in such a way that you can put a drill bit in here and tighten it down, or a rod, or a hook rod, or it's got a lot of uses. Now, it's double-ended, so if you unscrew this, you have a choice between different diameters that you can put in there, and both ends have a chuck. Guess it's a chuck, right? So you got four choices. Now, the thing about this unit was the women would wrap tape around them because they would scratch. They were scratchers. I got to explain scratchers. Western Electric made steel circuit boards. So they take a piece of steel and they cut it in a certain shape, like a circuit board, a plug-in circuit board, and then they coat it with it was like a ceramic material that had holes through it. Anyway, it was a metal circuit board with like an epoxy coating or ceramic, whatever you want. There'd be traces on it, and later on they put components on it. And the holes did go through, but the way they did it and built the holes up with ceramic, it didn't short out. Well, anyway, so they would roll the traces on, the paint for the traces, and it was a process. And what would happen is they would get little splatters of the trace, and it would be the material that they would plate. So they'd roll on these traces, and then later the next step they would plate copper onto where they rolled these traces. But there would be splash and spots. So you had to go in with these tools, and these girls would use this unit with a surgical blade in it to pick or scratch the shorts. And these girls had these circuits memorized. It's just the traces. There's no parts on it yet. They would scratch them, and then it would go in a tester, and you would open the fixture up and have 100 pins in there. You lay it down on the pins, you close it down, and then the machine would have a bunch of stepping relays. It would tell you if the board was good or if you had an open or whatever. Anyway, that's one of my first jobs was on the tester. And these girls were very protective of these knives, and they would wrap tape around them. They get a certain fit for their hand. And to prevent any of the girls from stealing the knife from each other, they often blamed each other for stealing the knives. I would find them after we shut down at night. They would drop the pin vise down. It would hit their foot, and they would roll underneath the workbench back in the corner. So I would find these things. So anyway, I would always return them to the girls, and they would make comments to me, nasty comments. We knew you had it. So I won't go into those stories, but in other words, one day I'm outside, and they would take the knife outside at break time, and they would set it down. There was a wall they sat on, and they would set these things down on the wall. And then later on, I would pick them up when I was coming in from high school. I would work there after school. I would come in, I'd spot these things out on the wall, and they'd pick them up and bring them in to the girls. And they've already had a brutal fight with each other, blaming each other. Now I walk in with one of their knives, and then they have another fight. Well, anyway, one day I was coming out for supper across the street to my house, and I saw one of them on the wall, and they've already gone home. I just picked up and took it home, and then I kept it. But it seems, let me see if it sticks to a magnet. It seems to be brass. Oh yeah, it's brass. But I know the collets, what do I call them? I call them chucks before. The actual name is a collet. All right, so this is the first one I ever owned. And oh, it's got this real cool feature. In other words, let's put this one here. I'll just show you one side. What I like this for is I have really small taps. When you're tapping like a 256, this is like I think this is a 632, something like that. And there's one side you can put this in and tighten it down. And now you can tap. But I mean, really, I use this for really small taps. And it's very precision. And when you want to tap a hole in something that's a little iffy, this is what I use. So that pin vise, very useful thing to have. Now, another one I had, never had one like this. This is a Starrett. Okay, this is like $15 or more for this thing. It comes in a set, but it's got grips, and you can really get in close when you want to put a starter hole. Or after you use your punch, you can get the hole started with this. And this can also go in the drill press at the top. If you're drilling a not for real heavy work, but you put this in the drill press when you're drilling like plastic or something like that. And you can do that with basically any pin vise. Now these are a set. I have more of them. These are made in India. They're very well made. The problem with the jaw size, or a jaw, a chuck, or a collet. I guess there is 3 words for this, but in other words, when you open it up, there's your collet. All right, you call it a jaw, you call it a chuck, but the actual name is a collet. Hopefully, I'm in the frame. All right, so you want to have a set of pin vices, and you could put a steel rod in there, and then with a point on it, you grind your point on it, or you can put a hook on it, and you can use it for that. Now the next tools I want to tell you about is a scribe. All right, now I'm laughing to myself already. I have this. We always talk about disappearing objects phenomena. Well, I have this scribe that has gone into the 4th dimension several times. Here it is here. I told you about this scribe once before. This is I use this thing for scribing lines in metal. And all this is, I went crazy trying to find this after I lost it, trying to find where I could buy one. This is a dental tool. You know, the ones they stick in your mouth, and like a pick. And originally these things were like stainless, and they weren't hollow. And my father took one and he ground it down and he put his tip on it. But the weight of this thing is just right for my hands. I have big hands, and when you want to scribe in a piece of metal, or even you can even push it down and rotate it like this and put a dimple in the material you're working on to get that lineup hole exactly where you want. This is the tool I use. And the new dental picks and all that, they're hollow and they're junk. But it was so funny. I lost this. I put it in a book. I told you I had this guy that kept calling me all the time. Can you look this up for me? Can you look that up for me? And I look it up, and I put this in the page, close it, and then go upstairs, call the guy up. Oh, I already got the answer. I don't need it. So then I take the book back and put it in my library. And this was in it. For months, I couldn't find this. I was going crazy. I've lost it other times. I put it in when I cleaned up a bunch of metal rods off the bench. I grabbed this and put it in with them. And I thought about it. 2 or 3 days, I went back in the box with the metal rods, and there it was. But this is my favorite. It's got the right weight. It feels right in my hand. It's good. Now, you might be able to find something at a real good machine shop or machine shop supply, if they're out there anymore. Here's basically the same thing. It's got a clip to go in your pocket, but this thing's heavy. And there's a piece of carbide tip on the end. And this will scribe in any material except diamond. All right, that's a piece of carbide there. Now, there are other ones that you might not know are even there. Like this thing here. This on the outside, it looks like it is. It's a magnetic retriever. and you carry this in your pocket. And anytime you drop a bolt or something down on the floor, and it gets behind something, that's it. But what you don't realize, I have it turned out. The tip of this, it looks just like a ferrule. Hold on, let me put it the way you would see it. So if you're at a yard sale, you might see it like this, right? You don't know, but here, when you take this out and turn it around, this will scribe metal. And I'm not, some of you guys will say, well, why don't you show the bluing material? Oop. Oh, hey, now the camera doesn't want us, the camera wants to move forward. Let's let the camera move forward. It's on a tripod, but I shortened two of the legs so I could get over the piece of paper. But anyway, this is also a scribe tool. Now, this one's got a funny story to it. This is number 3. All right, this is a Radio Shack scribe tool. In the package, it shows you scribing your initials into your belongings. Now, I would buy these. My dad was a tool maker, and he'd sneak over and he'd borrow this tool. He'd drop it. He would knock the tip off. There's a carbide tip welded on the end. He'd knock it off, then he'd regrind it and put it back. And I know right away when I went to use it, it wasn't scribing right. And I said something to him. Well, I put a new edge on it. That's what he always said. He could not sharpen scissors to save himself, could not sharpen a drill, and he couldn't fix this because there's a tip of carbide there that's welded by a machine. And then they turn it down. And this is very sharp, and it'll scribe anything. But I just don't like, I don't know. It's pretty good. I just don't like the tip because it's not real precision, the tip, and it just bothers me. But it's so funny. This is number 3. And my sister used to break the stylus off on the record player, the diamond tip. She'd break it off, and my brother-in-law claimed it was still there because she'd keep playing the nub she'd keep playing the record even though the diamond was missing. And then she'd say to me, "It's skipping." I'd go over there and I'd say, "The diamond's missing off the tip." And my brother-in-law, he'd keep insisting the diamond was still there. But I can't tell you how many styluses I replaced with my own money. And then my mother says something to me about don't do it anymore. But my mother was brutal on stuff too. The people I was surrounded with when I grew up, I know I'm not perfect, but they didn't care. They kept making the same mistakes over and over and over and over. And it drove me nuts. I make a mistake once and I dwell on it for days, weeks, months. And other people don't. They just they'll buy the same thing and break it. Or they'll buy it over and over and over, put it away, and then they can't find it. That amazes me. I know I'm starting to probably get Alzheimer's. I'm starting to lose words and stuff. But I just wanted to show you some of my tools. And this was the funniest. Like I said, the girls would actually get in fist fights over their pin vise. And then I would find them outside on that wall, and I'd bring it into the girl, and the girl would make a comment that I took it on her. And then, like I said, one day I was going home for supper. I used to go, it was across the street from my house, the company. And I was going home for supper. And, some nights I had to do a lot of testing. And he'd say, go home, get your dinner, and come back and finish that pile of those boards that this went with and get them out of here. Because he allowed me to count them and box them and get them ready to go. It was for, I say Western Electric. But they would actually silk screen this pattern. First it was steel, then it was some kind of coating of epoxy, or it could have been porcelain. And then they would silk screen this pattern on there, and that would hold the copper. When it went to the next step, they would plate the traces on there. That's how they made circuit boards in Western Electric. And this is a tool. This tool is 53 years old. Like I said, it's brass. You might see these, and like I said, there's a collet. Like you call it Jaws, a chuck, but the real name on it's a collet. All right, just so you know. I think that's it. That's it. This is one of the first parts. I'm going to show you some of my other tools as time goes along. And I started doing this, and for some reason, I just forgot. And I'm doing a more involved, showing you sets. See, I don't just have one scribe. This is for when I lose the first one. This is the one I use. All right, this is my baby. This one I use only because I have to. I got this at the tool company in Corny. Johnny sold me this one. He just said, it's really good. I said, Johnny, if I ever find this one again, I'll come back and show you. And I showed him. I said, feel the weight of this. See, it's just the right weight and the right thickness. This is much heavier and a little bit thicker. And when you're operating it, it's not as delicate as this. See, if you really get into repair and building, you get dexterity in your hands. And mine is starting to go. I'll admit it. I'm going senile. And there's my phone going off. I think that's it. All right, that's it.